Alrighty, welcome to Supernatural Signals, my haunted journal edition. If you're new here, this is kind of where I just yap about updates in supernatural life, where I'm going in my spiritual journey, as well as any supernatural things that have occurred, and just any updates in my normal human life that has to do with supernatural that I feel like sharing, and just updates on new stuff that I find interesting in general, like true crime and things like that. So basically, it's where I get to yap, but mostly centered around supernatural, usually. So today, I want to kind of just jump in it. I have a couple things I want to discuss. This will probably be long. Um, I'm going to start filming these kind of in advance, not super advanced, but kind of in advance. So this is kind of where I'm at now in my thought processes, and just keep that in mind. Things might change. I do have some supernatural occurrences that happened last week that I will discuss probably towards the end of the video. Hang on, my dog is barking. I'm going to go check him out. But right now, I kind of want to talk about the supernatural and how it relates to your person and finding your person. Um, Kermie, let's just say, was the first real boyfriend or anything I had. I'd never had anything prior to him, and kind of throughout my whole life, when you're younger, like, oh, I'll wait for my time, and then you get older and you're like, wait a minute, it's taking a while. So when I talk about all this, trust me, I know what it feels like to not feel, I guess, like someone's whole world, you know what I mean? Maybe besides like a parent relationship or something like that, but not feeling chosen, I guess, right, in that type of relationship. And when Kermie and I got together, I don't want to give too much into it because certain private things, but the way we got together wasn't normal. And like I've said we never really had our honeymoon phase because we were just like got together and just went. Um, so our relationship is a little complicated. And Kermie's my boyfriend. If you're new here, that's his nickname that I use online because he likes to be private, but because of his job, pretty much. But he's very big into the supernatural. In fact, he was a big part of my supernatural journey. Let's put it that way. And with his past, he had a lot of trauma, which I'm not going to go into it. Uh, um, both spiritually and his human life. And because of that, he's very protective of me, and for sometimes really good reasons, and sometimes it's almost like PTSD, right? It's almost like I posted on my threads, this is Kermie's theme song, and I was kind of teasing him because I'll read my threads or whatever. And, you know, it's not like I have a lot of followers on there, but, like I posted something like, um, this is Kermie's theme song, and it's called Jealous, I think, from Justin Timberlake or something like that. And because he gets jealous sometimes, and he gets, you know, I don't know, he gets jealous and he gets protective is the right word. And like I said, it's sometimes justified and sometimes it's his PTSD talking. And so I understand PTSD in a different way. And so that is why I that is why I understand it to an extent of being like patient with it, right? And these are conversations we have, and I don't know, like it's something that we work with because it's not it's not jealousy in the sense of abuse, right? It's more like it's okay, relax. You know what I mean? And I think it's kind of weird because if you look at a relationship, it would in human society, right? And I don't try and look at the world anymore in human society because I think that's toxic as F because it was made that way. But in human society, he would be the bigger catch, right? He stereotypically, like he has, his career is good. He's very talented. You know, he has a lot of resources. He just would seem like the bigger catch, right? Stereotypically. And so looking in on our relationship, to me, especially when we first started dating, it was like, but I should be more worried about you, right? You know what I'm saying? And I at first when I started noticing his jealousy issues, I didn't believe it. I thought it was something else. I was like, oh, he did this because of this. I wouldn't like, I didn't even think that was why it was. You know what I mean? And then finally I figured it out and I was like, are you doing these certain things because you're worried, right? You know what I mean? And because I've never had someone worry about me like that, right? I never had someone look at me like that, right? And so it wouldn't be my mind. And all of a sudden you look at it at a different angle and you're like, bro, for real? Like you don't understand because you're the one that you're you're the one that everyone looking in would assume the opposite, right? And so then you also have the issues of people thinking like, oh, you know, maybe his jealousy issues and we're doing certain things, people think it's because I'm the jealous one, right? And it's like, no, you don't really know. It's kind of awkward, but that's how I visualize it. So it's our relationship kind of confusing, but it's one of those things where it's like I have patience for. And if you told me that years ago when you said, "Oh, your first boyfriend is going to have these issues," that I would have been okay with it. I would have been like, "Absolutely not," because independent girl, da 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 da. You know what I mean? Like the whole thing where it's like I don't like people telling me what to do and stuff. But like I said, after with all those other things that I just mentioned earlier, I'm kind of like understanding it because I've been through my own trauma and see how it seeps into things. And this week, he actually did something I was really proud of, which sounds weird, but basically, someone was going to help us with something, and it was a guy, and he had issues with it. And instead of, he's a very kind of, like I said, he's kind of like a, he acts first without thinking to talk sometimes. And I, instead of like making this huge deal and like trying to prevent something or something, he basically was just like, hey, can we like switch it to a girl? And I was like, okay, like it's fine. Like, look, that's fine. Like, it's all good. Like, he didn't make a big deal out of it. He didn't thing. And maybe like a year ago, he would have tried to like sabotage or been like, because he didn't want to be the bad guy and stuff. But him just being like, hey, I'm not comfortable with it. I'd rather it to be a girl. I was like, oh, okay. Like, I'm like, yeah, that's fine. And I'm actually proud of you for just saying that, right? You know what I mean? Because of what we need to get it done. And I'd rather you be comfortable. You know, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. But I think I kind of want to go into that idea and the fact that I think everyone thinks the word jealous is a bad word, right? I don't think it is. Like, if you're not passionate about things, you're never going to be jealous, right? It makes you human, right? Like, you could see someone being successful in their career and you can say, yeah, I'm jealous. I'm happy for them, but I'm also jealous. And then you figure out why you're jealous. Either you're missing something from it or that's when you do the searching, right? That's when you're kind of like, why am I jealous? What trauma did I have? What don't I have? What am I lacking in my life spiritually, especially spiritually? I try and focus on spiritually, not so much the real world, right? That we're in, quote unquote, the real world, so that's I don't think jealousy is a bad word, right? I get jealous all the time. And I have worked on myself so much these last few years, but I will scroll media and I'll be like, I really like her, but like, you know what I mean? I think it's just a common thing. But knowing that you're jealous, knowing that, okay, don't act on it, don't, sabotage someone, don't leave hateful comments, don't, you know what I mean? Like coping in that sense is where the growth comes from, right? Because then you realizing you're jealous is where you can be like, okay, I'm jealous because my career isn't where it's at. I'm jealous because I just broke up with my boyfriend and I see someone in a relationship. Maybe someone's jealous of Kermie and I, and I'm like, well, you don't know what's going on. You don't know how long it took us to get here. You don't know, you don't know what goes behind the scenes, right? And so that's where I kind of like am with the jealousy talk. And I think it's just been kind of one of those things where, you know, it's just understanding what it is, right? And not letting it overtake you, right? And don't let those emotions take you. Same thing with anger. It's okay to be angry because, again, if you've never been angry, you've never been passionate about anything, right? It's okay to have that. Just don't, there's a few times I was angry this week and I didn't lash out. I was just like, okay, like, let's talk about it. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's one of those things where it's easier said than done, but at least knowing that you're not a bad person to having those feelings, right? Because they'll say you're just jealous or you just get so angry, and you just that doesn't mean you're bad. Doesn't mean you're bad. You just need to learn how to cope with it, right? And that's where you learn from things, and that's when you start asking yourself questions. It's like in therapy, right? When people therapy, from my understanding, there I haven't been to a therapist for a while because I do my own super spiritual therapy, quote unquote. But however, whatever you go to like channel your emotions, therapists usually just ask you questions back and let you figure it out, right? So ask yourself questions like, why am I jealous? Why am I feeling these emotions? Why is this happening? And you'll figure it out. And Kermie is one thing he will do is he will, as one of the biggest reasons I'm with him is because he will do those things. Like I've mentioned in my last video, I'm like, I really want to go on dates and stuff. And he's like, okay, we're going to do that more. And we are doing it more. And for this situation, he's been actively, he knows jealousies. We've talked about it, right? And he knows jealousy is an issue. And for him, for him to just say, hey, I'm not comfortable with it, and he even said he was like kind of worried that there would be an issue with it, like, oh, you're jealous or something. And I was like, no, like you told me, I'd rather you tell me and then not be comfortable with it and not sabotage it somehow, right? Or stress yourself out for no reason, right? It's like if you're not comfortable for that yet, it's okay. Like that's fine. And I think with that said, when you're asking yourself, like, okay, so say you're in a scenario and you see someone's getting engaged and you don't feel chosen. And again, I explain this. I trust me. I know how that feels. And not only do I know how it not to feel chosen, but like letting men make you feel like you are lesser than because you aren't chosen. Men are very fucking good at that, and they learn it at a very young age. And if you are like that, stop it. Anyway, and I think ladies know what they're saying when you're like at a club or something, and then they kind of look at you and just talk to your girlfriends and don't even give you the time of day. That's nasty work. Anyway, and if Kermie has ever done that, or I ever see him do that, it's on site because no, you respect women. So anyway, going forward, um, so like I know how that feels, and I know how it feels like when you don't feel like you have that person. But like say you feel like you're the only girl that's not engaged or guy not engaged and you haven't found your person. Well, at least you know that's something that you really want, and in your spiritual side, that's probably something you're missing and probably had in another life. Kermie and I know whatever you want to believe, Kermie and I 100% we have our own proof believe that we were together way before we were plopped on this earth. That's how we feel. So if you're missing something and you're that jealous of it, or you're that upset about it, of feeling those emotions, or angry or sad or whatever the case may be, that's probably because you had it and you lost it, and you're sad that you don't have it still. So you're angry that other people do have it, right? Their emotions coming up somewhere. There's some people in the world that are polyamorous and don't have like one person, they just like their little pack, or there's some people that asexual or just don't want a relationship. There are some people like that in the world. But if you're one of those people that long for that, you probably have it. You just don't know where it's at. And that's really frustrating. And the sad thing is the universe kind of like uses people's journeys to help other people's journeys and keep the process of the meaning of why we're here on this earth going, right? The mission to keep going. They kind of use your journey to propel that, right? That's how I see it. And so sometimes you don't have your person because they're still working, whether they know it or not, on their mission, right? Where they need to be single or in a relationship that's not really for them, or whatever the case may be, and vice versa, right? And so sometimes it could be a timing issue, and sometimes it could be your person experienced a lot down in the world and maybe they're just not ready for you, right? Like maybe they changed a lot during the world because the world is an effed up place, right? And they need to kind of go through not their human journey, but a spiritual journey in order to be like, meet you again and be the respectful partner that you deserve, right? And so, with all that said, I do want to get into. Oh my gosh, Buddy is on one today. One second. Sorry, Buddy is really restless tonight. But I think it's because we've been, I don't know, like I said, cleaning out a lot of stuff and breaking down boxes and things. Today his routine was a little different, so I think he's just on guard. But the last thing, I'm gonna move past relationship stuff, but that was just kind of like on my thought, and I was very proud of Carmi for being like, just I don't know, just saying, you know what I mean, like I'm not comfortable with it, you know what I mean, and that's okay to say that, especially with guys. I think guys, I think there's this whole thing now in the social media where they're like, men are allowed to express their emotions, so they're going on podcasts. It's just great, like thing, expressing their emotions, but also not just expressing it, but actively working on it, right? It's like instead of just having your woman be like, oh, like let me take care of you emotionally and ask you how your day. Yeah, they should be doing that, but also taking your own power back and saying, baby, this bothers me because of this, and I know I'm working on it. I know it's probably a little irrational, but can we do this? And then if it's something I'm comfortable with and don't think it's a big deal, sure, why not? But I do think men need to kind of go past just the talking point and actively progress. And one thing about Kermie is Kermie's a doer, and that's why I love him. But I love him a lot. Sorry. But anyway, we're gonna move past that. The one thing I do want to talk about is there was some weird stuff going on in the universe world. There was one thing that happened. I was laying in bed and my door did this like um hang on. My door did this thing where it sounded like it shut again even though the door was shut. You know how it's like sometimes doors kind of like if like the wind blows it or something like that, it does like that extra little pop. I don't know how to describe it. It did that, but there was first of all no wind and it was way harder than that. And it was shut for a while. Like I was sitting in bed, it was in the evening, there was nothing near it. It was to the point where I left my room and asked someone that was in the house if they knocked on my door because that's what I thought it was. I got up and was like, it didn't sound like a knock, but it sounded like someone pulled my door shut harder, right? It was like a thing. So that was very weird. The other weird thing was I posted a video on my threads and I didn't think about anything of it during that time, but I posted on my threads where I got Buddy a new bed and I went out into the living room the next morning and we have a basket for all of Buddy's toys and he likes to pull out his toys and play with it. Well, in the morning, I looked in there and his toys were out, and I just was like in the video, you could hear me saying like, "Oh, it's so cute! You brought out all your toys." But then I looked at the toys, and the toys were like evenly stacked. Like they weren't like how like you would think like a dog would take them out and just throw them all over the place. And I asked everyone in the house if they took them out themselves, and they said no. But after looking at the video, I'm like, how? And then I took a picture of it because I was like, it was like one of those things where I was like, oh, you're so cute, buddy. And then I like went to go do something, and then I looked at it again, and I was like, wait, did you just evenly place out your freaking toys? Like, I know that sounds so weird, and and when I asked people in the house that could have done it, or people that have been in the house, they said no. People have lied about weirder things, but why would they lie about that? Like, you know what I mean? So that's weird. It could just be that Buddy's very OCD, but that's not his norm. I mean, I go look at his bed right now and his toys are all over the place. He's loving his life. But yeah, it was very weird because I didn't like it didn't fully like hit me where I was like, okay, why are these stacked like in a perfect like it was almost like a triangle shape, right? So I'll put a picture in there if I remember. No, I will put a picture in here. I'm just looking at the time for it. Okay. So yeah, so it was very, very weird. Um, yeah. Speaking of Buddy, I just put him in my room and he's calming down. Like this is like his little calm zen, because he gets stresses himself out and he feels like he needs to stay out there to bark. And then as soon as I bring him in this room, he like calms down and like I got him his stuffy and his bone and brought him some water in case he gets thirsty at night. But he is sleeping here tonight because Bro is a mom one today. Okay. But I digress. The last thing I want to talk about supernatural related is Buddy's walking habits have been really weird. He loves his he just stuck his little nose on me. My baby, get some sleep, honey. You stress yourself out. He will stress himself out at night so much. Um, but he wants to get on the bed. That's what he really wants. But Carmi just looked at me and said no. Okay. But so sorry. So the other things is like taking him on walks have been super super weird lately. I will take that's his like favorite thing to do, right? That's his like let's go. Like he likes to, he's been playing more outside with toys and fetching and stuff lately, but WLKs are like his favorite. But lately, I will take him and it could be in many different directions and we'll go down maybe a 2 blocks, if that, a block and a half, and all of a sudden he will stop and he will like look at me and then like turn around. And it's like, and he's like a big dog. He's like about 75 pounds. And so um like it's hard to be like if he wants something and he's on his leash, it's like hard to be like no, let's keep walking, and he will just like I've had to finish so many walks early lately. And at first I thought it was because he saw something, like because the first few times that it happened, it would be with like a someone would be biking or someone would walk their dogs. I'm like, did that spook him? Because like I said, he's a very like, I want to be with my family and that's it. Like he's kind of like a bashful dog. Not he's not really reactive, but he's very he shrinks down when he sees people he doesn't know, right? He's cautious. And so I was like, maybe that's it. But no, there were times when we would go and there would be nothing there. Nothing there, not even a squirrel. And he would be like, nope. He would smell something and stop and just charge right back. So I'm like, well, maybe we'll go a different direction. So instead of going back to the house, I'm like, let's go this way. And he would be like, nope, and go straight into the cul-de-sac area. And he did that a few times. And eventually I like was just like, no, we have to keep going on our WALK because you have to get your exercise in. So I literally had to drag him and finally, but drag him to our normal like walking thingy. And finally, like he went, but the whole time he was looking back at me, looking back at me, looking back at me, and then like walking fast. And like as soon as he saw like where we could turn into the place, he like ran into it. It was very weird. It was like he was scared of something that I could not see. And like I said, ever since I've had him going on walks, he'll like shrink down and like act like someone's about to hit him. But we don't hit our dogs like that. Like there might be time where we're like, no, stop, and little tap on the head, but never like. And then he would just be, like, you know what I mean? But again, 75-pound dog. Like sometimes you have to like, calm down. You know what I mean? But never where he was scared of us, right? Like that's we don't do that. Like Kirby doesn't even want him to have a crate, right? If you do that with your dogs, that's fine. Everyone has their situation, but Kirby's like, I don't even want him in a crate, right? So, like, we don't, we don't hurt our dogs like that at all, right? That's not how we discipline, and um, like, so it's like I just always thought it was like PTSD from because then I don't know where he's from or what he's been through. But I'm also like, maybe there's something by him that we don't see, and he's like shrinking his head because he sees something and he's scared of it. I don't know, but I will keep you updated. Like I said, Buddy is a very instinctful, sensitive dogs in more ways than one. So I will keep you posted on that. But those have been like the biggest updates supernatural wise. Okay, last thing I wanted to discuss is some updates on true crime, very, very briefly. I haven't really been looking much into the cases, just briefly here and there, just because I've been busy with stuff. But there's been updates with uh, the Tepe case with um, Monique. I'm sorry, Monique and Dr. Spencer Tepe, um, who were murdered on December 30th. They were updated. Just to give you some background, they were found on December 30th by police responding to a wellness check, and I guess there were some suspicions with like his dentist office, like the place he worked and other things, because everyone like he was late for work only for like an hour, and people were kind of like on like already calling in with a wellness check. I didn't know so many details of that aspect prior to, but I mean, sometimes that's where the instinct comes in, right? Sometimes people just know. Some people just have good instincts where they know a person really well, they know their habits. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Some people have good instincts. Maybe they did know there was an issue with, which I'm about to get into. They caught a person of interest and he's in jail right now. Um, but some people just really like, I don't know. You it's a feeling. It's like, well, why'd you call so early? And it's like, because of my feelings, like bugger off. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can't explain it, right? There's no rhyme or reason for it, but maybe they knew something that was going on with the family, too, right? So who knows, with that idea, but I do know there was some, questions about like why people called it in so early because he was late for an hour at work, and usually people don't freak out that much. But like I said, maybe they just had some good instincts, or maybe they knew some more additional information. Um, but so basically, long story short, there was no break in, and that what led to me like they knew someone. And it turns out that his her Monique's ex husband is now in jail. He was apprehended on Saturday in the morning, late morning, and he's about to be in court, I believe tomorrow. So I don't know what he's going to plead. So that should be interesting. But apparently they caught him pretty quickly. It didn't seem like he, I don't know, covered his tracks really well. So yeah, so that is the major update with that case. I don't really have much else to say. I'm just glad they caught him pretty early on. Seems like they had a lot more information than they were telling. As of right now, from what I'm reading, I don't think that there was a surveillance tape of someone walking in the neighborhood around the time of the killings. I don't think it's been made public if that's him or not. But so it could have just been a random guy that, was just having a early morning, getting into shenanigans and, um, or it could have been him. So I don't know about that yet. But yeah, so that's been an update. So at least that's good. And they got that cleared right away, but it'll be interesting to see how this case unfolds. And I'm just interested to see how he's going to plead. They had to have a lot of evidence on him if they caught him that early or apprehended him that early. There was an update with the Nick Reiner case and the Reiner family case. It turns out his lawyer Alan Jackson resigned right after they had a hearing. So his Nick's hearing to say, whether he's guilty or not is going to be in February, from my understanding. So it's a while from now. February 23rd is his scheduled arraignment and possible plea entry. Um, but yeah, it looks like Alan Jackson, the biggest news out of that case right now, is decided not to continue. Alan made it firm that he believes Nick is not guilty. Not guilty how, whether it's reason of insanity or someone else did it, which I doubt they're going to go that route because now he has a public defender. In my opinion, the reason Alan dropped out is probably twofold, but I think maybe it's a more difficult case and maybe Nick has a reputation to work with him. And it probably is a money issue, but I almost was wondering when was talking to Nick that he made money as the excuse because let's be real, he doesn't need the money, right? And having a high profile case kind of just looks good as a lawyer. And maybe they're having difficulty seeing eye to eye. I don't know. But I could definitely see Alan being like, oh, you don't have the money? Oh, sorry, I really can't work. You know what I mean? Kind of using that as the excuse. Or who knows, like maybe he's just like, I need the money. But like I kind of feel like when you're kind of that high profile, taking these things pro bono, or at least not getting paid as much, because let's be real, Nick doesn't really technically have money. His parents had money, right? And so, yeah, so I probably think maybe Alan used the money as a cop out. That's my opinion. Who knows what was happening behind closed doors? But he didn't say the reason he's dropping out. He just says he can't. Or maybe there was like, he admitted that he did it, and so he wanted to drop out that way. Um, or use that again as an excuse, because I don't think that would stop Alan Jackson from continuing on with the trial. Anyway, there's a lot of ifs, maybes, who knows, but it'll be interesting to see how he pleads. And the same thing with the Tepe case. It'll be interesting to see how Mike, and I forgot to mention his name, Mike McGee is the one that is currently in custody for that. And again, he was the ex-wife of Monique. So something going on with that. Um, yeah, I'm sorry I'm not going too much details with these cases. My platform isn't all just for true crime, but hopefully next week I can kind of go more into details and stuff like that. I've just honestly been briefly like listening to podcasts in one ear and briefly looking at things in the news. Yeah, I saw on TMZ, for instance, that they said one of the reasons Nick killed his parents because he gained weight. If that's the case, then obviously there was mental health issues going on because I've gained weight. I didn't want to murder anyone, but you never know. Like I said, I just saw the title of it, so there has to be more info in there. I just saw that and I was like, what? like, I'm like, I don't know. COVID. I gained weight. I didn't go on a killing spree. So, anyway, trying to make a little lighthearted for dark topics, but yeah, so I'm gonna close this out. As far as what I've been doing as entertainment wise, obviously playing video games. I've been really into Agatha Christie Death on the Knot. I like to play that game because it doesn't take much thought. Like I just get to like immerse myself more in the storyline. So I've been really enjoying that. And then obviously still trying to make my way through Hollow Knight. I will finish that game by the end of the year. My boyfriend keeps laughing at me. He's like, "You have all year. It's not even February yet." I'm like, "I'll get it. I'll get the mantis." so that's where I'm at with Hollow Knight. So that'll be a good adventure for me. But yeah, other than that, playing Agatha Christie games just to kind of like chill out. And then I am still awaiting Reanimals. So excited for that. So, um, yeah, that's been updated. Obviously, still watching the morning show. I'm not gonna lie, the first half of season 3, I was kind of like, this is getting to be a little bit of a cluster F, if you will. But I don't know. But then it started getting better towards halfway through. So I was like, okay. Um, so back into that. Yeah, so that's what Kermie and I are watching. I'm excited. They're going to have a season 5 as well. I looked that up. So that's something to look forward to. And other than that, we need to find another show. I know there's Pluribus, which has from the creator of Breaking Bad, which everyone knows. I love Breaking Bad. So I'm going to have to check that out. I think they're dropping each episode separately, though. And I'm like a binge person. So I might wait until that's all together. I know Stranger Things was a big thing. Kermie and I need to get into that. It's just one of those things where it seems like it's kind of a I don't know. I don't know what's stopping us from watching that, to be honest, because we have to start from season 1. I don't remember one thing that happened. Um, but yeah, I think eventually we'll get back into it. But yeah, so we're definitely gonna have to find another show after the morning show, and we kind of stopped watching TV for a little bit, so I'm glad we're kind of getting back into it because that is something we enjoy. Alrighty, I'm gonna close that out again. I'm sorry for kind of. I don't like to make true crime that short and maybe not that detailed, but um, that's just where my head's at lately. So I don't want to go into more details that I'm not privy on uh, if I don't have the information. So I'm gonna go. I hope everyone has a good day, and thank you for listening. And as always, stay curious and stay tuned into the supernatural. Thanks for watching.